What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in a living color from the Radio What Studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote. And maybe you can have me at your next event. I like to party for the people. Have equipment, will travel. Mobile DJ, it's what I do. And if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag, What Makes You Famous. Learn stuff together. Let's get smarter. What makes you smarter? Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Thursday, April 9th, 2020. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, Sanders suspends his presidential campaign. Senator Bernie Sanders, independent Vermont, announced Wednesday that he was suspending his campaign for the Democratic presidential nomination, saying he couldn't justify continuing to fight for votes during the coronavirus crisis, given rival Joe Biden's big lead. Quote, "As I see the crisis gripping the nation," end quote, Sanders told reporters in a video live streamed from his Burlington, Vermont home, quote, "I cannot in good conscience continue to mount a campaign that cannot win and which would interfere in the important work required of all of us in this difficult hour," end quote. Sanders, a Democrat socialist who became the field's leading progressive, and Biden, the former vice president and now the presumptive nominee, stopped traditional campaigning as the coronavirus forced broad stay-at-home orders. This is according to the Washington Post. Number 2, daily U.S. coronavirus deaths rise to record. The U.S. saw a record 1,922 coronavirus deaths on Wednesday, up from the previous high of 1,858 set Tuesday, according to Johns Hopkins. New York also reported its highest 24-hour coronavirus death toll for the second straight day, with 779 deaths. Governor Andrew Cuomo, Democrat, said. Cuomo said it was a, quote, "very real possibility," end quote, that deaths are being undercounted because some people were dying at home. But there has been a decline in the new COVID-19 cases. An influential model used to track the outbreak estimated last week that more than 90,000 would die from COVID-19 in the U.S. by August. But on Wednesday, it dropped the estimate to 60,415. Dr. Deborah Birx, the White House coronavirus response coordinator, said the drop showed that social distancing and stay-at-home policies were working. This is according to Reuters and CNN. Number 3, Democrats demand adding hospital aid to GOP small business plan. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrat California, and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat New York, on Wednesday called on Republicans to add food assistance, aid to states, and relief for hospitals to the GOP request for $250 billion in additional funds for small businesses. Pelosi's remarks signaled a possible obstacle for Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin's request to boost a loan program for small businesses hurt by the coronavirus. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, has said he would ask for unanimous consent in the Senate on Thursday for the extra money for the popular Small Business Paycheck Protection Program, which has been swamped with requests for loans. McConnell now must decide whether to include the Democrats' demands, which would double the relief bill's size, or delay the additional funding for small businesses. This is according to The Hill and The Washington Post. Number 4, Saudi Arabia plans ceasefire to counter coronavirus threat in Yemen. Saudi Arabia announced Wednesday that the coalition it leads would observe a unilateral ceasefire in Yemen's war starting Thursday. The kingdom said it intended to move to help restart United Nations brokered peace talks. Saudi officials said the peace push was largely motivated by concerns that the COVID-19 coronavirus could spread in Yemen, which remained one of the nations without a confirmed case of the novel virus. Aid workers have warned that an outbreak in the war-ravaged nation could be devastating, as it already is enduring humanitarian crisis. The ceasefire will be observed by Saudi Arabia and its allies, including the internationally recognized Yemeni government. But there was no immediate word on whether Iranian-aligned Houthi rebels who have taken control of much of Yemen would go along. This is according to the New York Times. Number 5, Boris Johnson's health improving in intensive care. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson was, quote, improving, end quote, Wednesday after spending 2 nights in intensive care, nearly 2 weeks after he tested positive for the COVID-19 coronavirus. Chancellor Rishi Sunak said Johnson was, quote, engaging positively, end quote, with healthcare providers at St. Thomas's Hospital in London, the Chancellor said. The news came as the coronavirus outbreak's toll grew in the UK, with a record 938 deaths in hospitals across the country. The previous one-day record in the country was 786, set on Tuesday. The UK now has a total of 7,097 coronavirus deaths. Authorities said the number of new cases was not accelerating, suggesting that social distancing and lockdown orders were paying off. This is according to BBC News. Number 6, WHO leader urges against politicizing coronavirus after Trump criticism. World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said Wednesday that politicizing the COVID-19 pandemic would only result in, quote, many more body bags, end quote. The remarks came less than a day after President Trump accused the WHO of responding too slowly to the pandemic and being biased in favor of China. Tedros did not refer to Trump by name, but stressed the importance of working together to fight a common public health threat. Quote, the unity of your country will be very important to defeat this dangerous virus, end quote, Tedros said. Nearly 1,500,000 coronavirus have been confirmed worldwide. The pandemic has been blamed for 88,567 deaths. This is according to NPR. Number 7. Fed minutes show support for strong action to curb coronavirus damage. Federal Reserve officials in 2 emergency meetings last month expressed mounting concerns about economic damage from the coronavirus outbreak, leading them to take, quote, forceful action, end quote, according to minutes of the meetings released Wednesday. At the March 2nd and March 15th meetings, Fed leaders agreed to cut interest rates to zero and resume huge asset purchases to pump more money into the economy. The U.S. Central Bank also decided to increase access to U.S. dollars for foreign central banks. The minutes provided details on the Fed's swift decision to make the historic moves due to the, quote, profoundly uncertain, end quote, economic outlook during the crisis. This is according to Reuters and the New York Times. Number 8. Divers find body of RFK's great-grandson. Maryland authorities said Wednesday that divers had found the body of 8-year-old Gideon Joseph Kennedy McKeon, a great-grandson of the late former Attorney General and Senator Robert F. Kennedy, in Chesapeake Bay. He was found about 2,000 feet from where the body of his mother, Maeve Kennedy Townsend McKeon, was found on Monday. McKeon, who was the executive director of the Georgetown University Global Health Initiative, and her son had been playing kickball near a shallow cove behind the house owned by McKeon's mother, former Maryland Lieutenant Governor Kathleen Kennedy Townsend. One of them kicked the ball into the water, and they went to get it in a canoe, but were swept into the open bay. Search crews found their overturned canoe on Friday. This is according to the Baltimore Sun. Number 9. Trade group. 1 in 3 tenants paid no rent in early April. Only 69% of tenants paid any rent in the first 5 days of April, down from 81% in March and 82% in April 2019. The National Multifamily Housing Council, a landlord trade group, and real estate data firms reported Wednesday. While 31% of tenants have paid no rent, some may still pay rent later this month, and electronic payments are possibly still being processed. NMHC said the drop was, quote, anticipated given the 6.6 million new applicants for unemployment benefits, end quote, last week. The Wall Street Journal reported many of the renters are protected from eviction by coronavirus emergency measures. NMHC President Doug Bibby said if rent payments fall sharply, some property owners won't be able to pay their staffs, mortgages, or utilities. This is according to the Wall Street Journal and NPR. Number 10, Linda Tripp, Clinton investigation whistleblower, dies at 70. Linda Tripp, the former White House aide who played a major role in former President Bill Clinton's impeachment, died Wednesday at age 70. Her son and lawyer confirmed. Tripp recorded then White House intern Monica Lewinsky admitting to an affair with Clinton and eventually shared those recordings with and testified to independent counsel Kenneth Starr. Details of Tripp's death were not yet made public, but she had been treated for breast cancer in the past. Lewinsky tweeted earlier Wednesday upon hearing Tripp was ill, quote, "No matter the past, I hope for her recovery. I can't imagine how difficult this is for her family," end quote. This is according to the Washington Post and the New York Times. That's 10 things you need to know today for Thursday, April 9th, 2020. Thank you for listening. This has been What Makes You Smarter. If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here. If you like what you hear, I encourage you to follow What Makes You Smarter on social media. Find it on Facebook at What Makes You Smarter, Instagram at What Makes You Smarter, Twitter at SmarterWhat, and YouTube. Username Keys Dan. Leave What Makes You Smarter podcast a review and subscribe. Listen to What Makes You Smarter podcast on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Podcast Addict. My personal favorite, learn with me on my podcast, What Makes You Smarter. And if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Call 501-470-6386 and leave a message to set up a time for What Makes You Famous. Support What Makes You Smarter podcast using the PayPal, paypal.me/Keys Dan. Email info@radiowhat.com. What Makes You Smarter is a production of Keys Dan Enterprises Incorporated at keysdan.com. Thank you for listening.